Magic Tree House, Pirates Past Noon. Chapter 7, Gales a Blowin'. So the treasure must be under that rock, said Annie. Right, said Jack. Now we just have to get back to the island. We'll show Captain Bones where the treasure is. Then while all the pirates are digging, we'll sneak up to the treehouse and make a wish to go home, said Annie. Right, said Jack. He poked his head out of the window of the cabin. Captain Bones! He shouted. The pirates took up the cry. Captain Bones! Captain Bones! Hey! Came a horrible voice. Captain Bones stuck his ugly face through the window. His good eye glared at Jack. What do you want, lovers? We're ready to tell the truth, sir, said Jack. Go ahead, growled Captain Bones. We know where Captain Kidd's treasure is. Where? We can't just tell you, said Annie. We have to show you. Captain Bones gave Annie and Jack a long, hard look. You'll need a rope, said Jack. And shovels, said Annie. Captain Bones growled. Then he roared at his men. Get some rope and shovels! Aye, aye, Captain. Then they throw these lubbers in the boat. We're back to the island. Aye, aye, Captain. Back in the rowboat, Jack saw the sky and had grown even darker with clouds. The waves were bigger. The wind was howling. Gale's a blowin', said Pinky. We'll see a gale if you don't get me gold. Today by thunder, Captain Bones shouted. Row, dogs, row! The three pirates battled the waves until the rowboat reached the island. They all piled onto the shore. Captain Bones grabbed Jack and Annie. Okay, lovers, he said. Now show us where the treasure is. There, said Annie. She pointed at black rock near the tip of the island. Under that rock, said Jack. Captain Bones dragged Jack and Annie down to the beach to the black rock. Get to work, Captain Bones said to Pink and Stinky. What about you? Said Annie. Me? Work? Captain Bones chuckled. Jack gulped. How could they get away from him? Don't you think you should help your friends? He said. Captain Bones gave Jack a horrible grin. Nay, I'm going to hold you two till the treasure is in me hands. Chapter 8. Dig, dogs, dig. Pinky and Stinky tied the rope around the big rock. The wind howled. The two pirates pulled and pulled and pulled. They need help, said Jack. Let the dogs do their work, growled Captain Bones. You're not very nice to them, said Annie. Who cares? Roared Captain Bones. Captain, we got it! Shouted Pinky. They started pulling the rock across the sand. Now let's dig where the rock was, said Jack. All of us. But Captain Bones ignored his suggestion. Dig, you dogs, he shouted. Pinky and Stinky started to dig. The wind blew even harder. There was going to be a thunderstorm. Ow, I got sand in me eyes, Pinky whined. Ow, me back hurts, Stinky cried. Dig, shouted Captain Bones. He held Jack and Annie with one hand. With the other, he pulled out the gold medallion. He tossed it at the two pirates. It fell into the hole. Dig for more of these, you swine, he said. Squawk! Look, Annie said. Polly was back. She was circling above them. Go back, she squawked. Stinky and Pinky looked up at the parrot. They scowled. Dig, shouted Captain Bones. A big storm is coming, Captain, said Pinky. Go back, said Polly. The birds and almond. Captain, shouted Stinky. Dig, you dogs, cried Captain Bones. Go back, squawked Polly. The bird's warning us, shouted Pinky. We've got to get to the ship before it's too late. The two pirates threw down their shovels. They started running toward the rowboat. Mutineers! Come back! Shouted Captain Bones. He dragged Jack and Annie down the bench as he ran after his men. Stop! But the pirates kept running. They got to the rowboat and pushed into the sea. Wait! Cried Captain Bones. Pinky and Stinky jumped into the boat. They started rowing. Wait! Captain Bones let go of Jack and Annie, who ran into the water. Wait, you dogs! He hauled himself into the rowboat. Then the three pirates disappeared into the spray of waves. Go back, squawked Polly. She means us, said Annie. Just then the storm broke over the island. The wind howled. Rain fell in buckets. Let's go, cried Annie. Wait, I have to get the medallion, shouted Jack. He ran to the hole dug by the pirates. He looked down in it. Even in the dreary light, the medallion was shining. Big fat raindrops were falling into the hole, washing away the sand. Jack saw a patch of wood. Then the rain cleared away more sand, and Jack saw the top of an old trunk. He stared. Was it Captain Kidd's treasure chest? Hurry, Jack, cried Annie. She was halfway up the treehouse ladder. I found it, I found it, cried Jack. I found the treasure chest. Forget the treasure chest, said Annie. We have to go now. The storm's getting worse. Jack kept staring to the chest. Was there gold inside? Silver? Precious gems? Come on! Now Annie was shouting from the treehouse window, but Jack couldn't hear himself away. He brushed the rest of the muddy sand off the chest. Jack forgot the treasure chest. He cried, Annie, let's go. Go back, squawked Polly. Jack looked at the parrot. She was perched on the black rock. He stared into her wise eyes. He thought he knew her. He knew her from somewhere else. Go back, Jack, she said. She sounded like a person. Okay, it was finally time to go. Jack took one last look at the treasure chest. He clutched the gold medallion. Then he took off running toward the treehouse. His socks and rain boots were still there. He quickly pulled the boots on. He shoved the socks into his backpack. The rope ladder was dancing wildly in the wind. Jack grabbed it. The ladder swayed as Jack climbed. He was tossed this way and that, but he held on tight. At last, he pulled himself into the tree house. Let's go, he cried. Annie was already holding the Pennsylvania book. She pointed to the picture of Frog Creek. I wish we could go there, she shouted. The wind was already blowing hard, but now it blew even harder. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster, then everything was still, absolutely still. Chapter 9 The Mysterious M. Drip, drip. Jack opened his eyes. Rain was dripping from the leaves of the tree. They were back in Frog Creek. The rain was softer. The wind was gentler. The air was sweeter. Oh man, Jack sighed. That was close. He was still holding the medallion. Polly's gone, said Annie. Sadly, I was hoping she might come back with us. No magic creature has ever come back with us, said Jack. He pulled off his backpack. It was damp with rain and salt water. Jack took out his pirate book. He put it on the stack of books on top of the dinosaur book and the night book and the mummy book. Then Jack put the gold medallion beside the bookmark with the letter M. Next, he went down onto his knees. He ran with his finger over the shimmering M on the floor. We didn't find any M's on the strip, he said. Or the M person, said Annie. Squawk! Polly, Annie cried. The parrot swooshed into the treehouse. She perched on the stack of books. Polly looked straight at Jack. What are you doing here? He asked her. Slowly, Polly raised her bright green wings. They grew bigger and bigger until they spread out like a huge green cape. Then, in a great swirl of colors and a blur of feathers and light, in a flapping and stretching and screeching, a new being took a shape. Polly was not a parrot any longer. In her place was an old woman, a beautiful old woman with long white hair and piercing eyes. She wore a green feather cape. She preached on the stack of books, and she was very calm and very still. Neither Jack or Annie could speak. They were too amazed. Hello, Jack. Hello, Annie, the old woman said. My name is Morgan Le Fay. Chapter 10 Treasure Again. Annie found her voice first. The M person, she whispered. Yes, I am the M person, said Morgan. Where are you from? Asked Jack. Have you ever heard of the King Arthur? Said Morgan. Jack nodded. Well, I'm King Arthur's sister, said Morgan. You're from Camelot? Said Jack. I've read about Camelot. What did you read about me, Jack? Said Morgan. You're a witch, Morgan smiled. You can't believe everything you read, Jack. But are you a magician? Said Annie. Most call me an enchantress, but I'm also a librarian, said Morgan. A librarian? Said Annie. Yes, and I've come to the 20th century, your time, to collect books. You're lucky to be born in a time with so many books. For the Camelot Library? Asked Jack. Precisely, said Morgan. I traveled in this treehouse to collect words from many different places around the world and from many different time periods. Did you find books here? Said Jack. Oh, yes, many wonderful books. I want to borrow them from our scribes to copy. Did you put all the bookmarks in them? Said Jack. Yes, you see, I like the pictures in the book. Sometimes I want to visit the scenes in the pictures, so all the bookmarks mark places I wish to go. How did you get there? Asked Annie. I placed a spell in the treehouse, said Morgan, so when I point to a picture and make the wish, the treehouse takes me there. I think you dropped this in dinosaur time, said Jack. He handed the gold medallion to Morgan. Oh, thank you. I wondered where I'd lost it, she said. She put the medallion into a hidden pocket in her cape. So can anybody work your spell? Asked Annie. Anybody who tries it? Oh dear, no. Not just anybody, Morgan said. You two are the only ones beside me to do it. No one else has ever even seen my treehouse before. Is it invisible? Asked Annie. Yes, said Morgan. I had no idea it would ever be discovered, but then you two came along. Somehow, you hooked right into my magic. How? Asked Jack. Well, for two reasons, I think, explained Morgan. First, Annie believes in magic, so she actually saw the treehouse, and her belief helped you to see it, Jack. Oh man, said Jack. Then you picked up a book, Jack, and because you love books so much, you caused my magic spell to work. Wow, said Annie. You can't imagine my dismay when you started to take out for dinosaur times. I had to make a very quick decision, and I decided to come along. Oh, so you're the pteranodon, said Annie. Morgan smiled. And the cat, and the knight, and Polly, said Annie. Yes, said Morgan softly. You're all these things to help us, asked Jack. Yes, but I must go home now. The people in Camlet need my help. You're leaving? Whispered Jack. I'm afraid I must, said Morgan. She picked up Jack's backpack and handed it to him. Jack and Annie picked up their raincoats. It had stopped raining. You won't forget us, will you? Asked Annie. Never, said Morgan. She smiled at both of them. You remind me too much of myself. You love the impossible, Annie, and you love knowledge, Jack. What better combination is there? Morgan Le Fay touched Annie's forehead gently, and then Jack's. She smiled. Goodbye, she said. Goodbye, said Annie and Jack. Annie left the treehouse first. Jack followed. They climbed down the rope ladder for the last time. They stood below the oak tree and looked up. Morgan was looking out of the window. Her long white hair blew in the breeze. Suddenly, the wind began to blow. The leaves began to shake. A loud whistle sound filled the air. Jack covered his ears and squeezed his eyes shut. Then everything was silent, absolutely silent. Jack opened his eyes. The treehouse was gone, all gone, absolutely gone. Annie and Jack stood a moment staring up at the empty oak tree, listening to the silence. Annie sighed. Let's go, she said softly. Jack just nodded. He felt too sad to speak. As they started walking, he put his hands into his pockets. He felt something. Jack pulled out the gold medallion. Look, he said. How did? Annie smiled. Morgan must have put it in there, she said. But how? Magic, said Annie. I think it means she'll be coming back. Jack smiled. He catched the medallion as he and Annie took off through the wet, sunny woods. As they walked, the sun shined through the woods, and all the wet leaves sparkled. Everything, in fact, was shining. Leaves, branches, puddles, bushes, grass, vines, flowers, all glittered like jewels, or gleamed like gold. Annie had been right, thought Jack. Forget the treasure chest. They had treasure at home, a ton of it, everywhere. That's it for today's video. I was surprised of Morgan Le Fay being a parrot and helping them throughout all of these stories, and I'm waiting for more stories. So yeah, let's go. Anyways, hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends if they like Magic Tree House. And tell me if you really thought that Morgan Le Fay could actually be helping us all of these throughout all of these videos. She was with us. Can you imagine? Tell me if it was a surprise, or did you already know?